Hi there, this is Rebecca Koffler with Censored but Not Silenced. Here's your today's daily intelligence brief for June 20th, 2025. We're going to talk about whether President Donald J. Trump is likely to strike Iran now that we are in the middle of the Israeli-Iran war. I will answer the following three questions. First, what intelligence is underpinning President Trump's decision calculus? Number two, is Israel capable of accomplishing the goal without the help of U.S. military? And three, what will happen if President Trump does go ahead and authorizes a strike by U.S. military on Iran? First, about the intelligence. To me, as a former intelligence officer, it doesn't pass the smell test. Why am I saying what I'm saying? So the DNI, Tulsi Gabbard, the Director of National Intelligence, herself briefed Congress, both the Senate and the House Intelligence Committee, as recently as March, and she said that Iran was not working on the nuclear weapons program, and it was suspended in 2003. So what is this rapid shift in assessment by U.S. government that all of a sudden we have a situation where Trump is considering going to war on Iran, potentially completely contradicting his campaign promise of not dragging the United States into another foreign war. So what I've done is I went back and I pulled intelligence assessments by the DNI and Director of the Office of National Intelligence. Every year we put out an annual threat assessment. So first I pulled out the 2025 assessment that Tulsi Gabbard had in her possession, and I'm going to quote the exact language for you, what it says on the section of Iran WMD. We continue to assess Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and that Khamenei has not reauthorized the nuclear weapons program he suspended in 2003, though pressure has probably built on him to do so. And then I went back and I looked at every single document back to 2019. I looked at 2024, 2023, 2022, 2021. There was no assessment in 2020. I went to 2019. And then to save time, because it's a very laborious process, obviously, I took a look randomly at the earliest I could find is 2005. Then I looked at 2006 and 2015. And each of them pretty much said the same thing. We continue to assess Iran is now building a nuclear weapon. That was the gist. And I have all of this information on my X account. So presumably Benjamin Netanyahu shared with President Trump the intelligence, I hope he did, that is justifying the decision to go to war with Iran, which would almost certainly produce catastrophic consequences. The thing that doesn't sound right is Mossad, the Israeli military intelligence, and U.S. intelligence have relatively close ties. And if Mossad knew that the Iranians were actually working on the nukes, but didn't share that intelligence with U.S. spy agencies. So which is it? Is the are the U.S. spy agencies, were they in possession of intelligence that Iran had all this time, going back to 2003? They were working on the nuclear weapons program, and the spy agencies didn't say it to the American people. They lied every year, year after year. They were putting this assessment. Or is it that someone else is lying right now? But clearly someone is putting pressure on President Trump to go to war. Well, who is that person who's pushing us into potentially World War III? CENTCOM commander General Eric Kurill is a highly influential individual. It appears to me that he's running a psychological operation on President Trump. Kurill is his nickname, the Gorilla. He is known for diverting funding and assets from all other combatant commands towards the Central Command. The Central Command is responsible for the Iran-Israel AOR, as we call it, area of responsibility. So this man has been amassing military hardware for years and influence, and he is really hot wanting to go to war with Iran. Coincidentally, Kurill is retiring in the next few weeks, as early as 2 weeks from today, or as late as by the end of the summer. So this is partially why President Trump wants another 2 weeks rather, to make this decision. He said publicly that he's not going to make a decision until 2 weeks expired. Well, what do we know about many of the generals who retired from the U.S. government service, and what is typically their next career move? Well, they all go to the military-industrial complex. We're talking Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, you name it. Those companies develop weapon systems. Isn't that convenient that a lot of the funding is that is going to clearly go from CENTCOM, if we are indeed in that war. It's going to go to the military-industrial complex and the think tanks that support CENTCOM. It's just one. Another possibility that things don't add up is that perhaps Mossad has their own Curveball scandal. If you remember back during the Iraq War, we had an Iraqi agent who volunteered information to German intelligence, and then we at my former agency, the Defense Intelligence Agency, requested to debrief this person, and we didn't have high confidence in his credibility, and so only this single report, the single source, was used to justify former President George W. Bush's invasion of Iraq. As it turned out, Iraq had no WMD. So are we on the verge of another costly and bloody war based on faulty intelligence? Number two, is Israel capable of accomplishing the goal? Well, first of all, we don't even know what Israel's goal is. It started off with Israel wanting to reduce the nuclear threat. Now they're going for a full-scale regime change. And somehow they were able to convince President Trump of the necessity of the regime change, to the point where President Trump posted on his Truth Social that we know where Ayatollah Khomeini is hiding and we can get to them. Well, big deal. I would be actually seriously concerned if we did not know where Ayatollah is. President Trump also was posting on social media that we, and that means the United States and Israel, are in full control of Iranian airspace. Oop-de-doo. That's what you do before you go to war. You establish full control of the airspace. It is absolutely not a huge achievement. U.S. military does that routinely every single war for the past quarter of a century that we have conducted all of these wars. I'm talking Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria. We have a playbook, right? Regime change is the playbook, starting all the way back since 1999. So that's what we did. We had full control of the airspace. What we don't have full control of is what happens next. And what happens next usually is not a pretty picture. Israel is not capable of achieving the goal, if it's regime change or if it's dismantling completely the nuclear capability of Iran. Nor is the United States. The United States military is in possession of the so-called massive ordnance munition GBU-57, commonly called bunker buster. Even with that munition, the likelihood of us getting to the bottom of Fordo, the nuclear facility, is just simply not there. There's no conclusive assessment that even with that capability, we can get as deep as 300 feet. That's how deeply it is located. So you can conduct one strike, you can do a whole strike package, but what will likely end up happening is you're not going to destroy it completely. The only way to destroy it completely is to go with a tactical nuclear weapon. Is that where we're going? Just something to think about. Another point on Israeli campaign right now, they are running out of interceptor missiles. In fact, and they're running up the tab. Their way of war is very, very expensive, just like the U.S. Way of war is very expensive. In about a month, Israel will be at $12 billion tab. It is spending right now on missile interceptors alone $400 million. Okay, I'm not even talking about the F-35s, constant runs, eating up a lot of fuel and this sort of thing. I'm just talking about interceptor. So Israel's GDP is 513 billion. So in about 4 to 5 months, it is going to run out of 1 year's GDP worth of money, and they're depleting, like I said, their inventory of interceptors, and we don't have enough to give them either. We don't have that many. Now, What if President Trump decides to actually go ahead and strike Iran? Do we think Iran is just going to crawl under a rock and not do anything? Well, Iran possesses multiple capabilities, non-kinetic and kinetic, to bring the war home to the United States. That is their way of war. We fight, US military, Western militaries like to fight no contact wars. We just primarily do air warfare. Iranians fight asymmetrically. Iranians have been developing clandestine networks here inside the US homeland for a decade, and they have the capability to conduct assassinations. We also just saw what Ukraine demonstrated with its own drone warfare strike deep inside Russia on their strategic nuclear triad. It's very easy to do, and it can be accomplished here in the United States. Cyber attacks, Iran, if I said previously Israel, I meant Iran. Iran possesses one of the world's most dangerous cyber attack capabilities. They are capable of attacking our critical infrastructure. We're talking our electric grid, hospitals, transportation facilities, any kind of water facilities. They can pretty much poison our water, and it happened several times already in the U.S. homeland. In case you haven't heard, specifically Pennsylvania, it is just by chance that we were able to catch to catch during those incidents and prevent a disaster, but they were getting ready to change the level of the chemicals in our water. Another one is the chemical and biological warfare. One of those drones could be outfitted pretty much with any kind of warhead. You can strap in a kinetic warhead, you can strap on a biological, chemical, you name it. And even though the annual threat assessment did conclusively say that Iran was not working on nuclear weapons program, it also did say that they were working on the biological and chemical. So they can accomplish that. Is that what we really want? Something to think about. So I'm not even talking in this particular episode about the cascading effects and this war spiraling out of control. I'm just focusing right now on US homeland. So in the next episode, I will address the scenario where things do spiral out of control and we are all of a sudden in World War III. So this is the situation that President Trump needs to keep in mind. I'm certain that he's going to make the right decision. He has good instincts. He is evaluating all of this information. The likely reason, my assessment is that he gave 2 weeks, is to set up Iranians for what we call a tactical surprise. He wants to give himself an option, Trump does. If he does make the decision to strike, to do a decapitation strike on Iran, he will probably do it in the next 72 hours, not 2 weeks. He just wants to kind of lull the adversary. He wants the Ayatollahs to think that they still have 2 weeks so they can come back with some diplomatic solution. And if not, if they remain defiant, he wants to surprise them. So hopefully President Trump has all of the information available. I'm concerned that he doesn't. I'm concerned that somebody is withholding information or feeding him the wrong information. I have called on Tulsi Gabbard to declassify the intelligence that is underpinning President Trump's decision. It's a relatively simple process. The document, the intelligence community assessment that likely, highly likely, almost certainly exists at this point, which President would need to justify his decision. Why don't you just classify it so that people know that indeed we have that situation on which we need urgently, because that situation is completely drastically different, that assessment, from what we had for years and years, and that is that Iran was not working on nuclear weapons program. Thank you for listening. This is Rebecca Koffler with the Daily Intelligence Brief. Please follow me on social media, on X at Rebecca0132. Rebecca is spelled Ebekah. And I'm also on YouTube, Rumble, Getter, and Truth Social. Thank you for joining in today, and I'll catch you next time.